Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dani and welcome to a new video. So today is the first episode of my grad school to glow up series, and I feel like the only appropriate way to start off this video is by discussing my grad school experience. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I just graduated with my MBA, my Master's of Business Administration with the concentration in marketing. I graduated this previous December and I'm so happy to be done. I feel like I've learned a lot. I made a good amount of videos on my channel during my journey, so I felt like this was just the most appropriate way for me to close that chapter but bridge y'all into what my life is going to look like now after grad school. So if you guys are interested in getting to know my experience in terms of why I went, some of the hardships I experienced, how I overcame those hardships, and my future goals as it pertains to content creation, how I plan on using my degree in my career, any and all of those things, then definitely keep on watching. Okay, you guys, so we're just gonna kind of reel it back in and just give you guys really good insight to why I went and pursued my graduate degree. So I graduated from undergrad in May of 2019 with a bachelor's degree in psychology with the intention of going to law school within a couple years after graduating. A lot of my work experience during undergrad was working in an immigration firm. I did that for about 3 years or so in undergrad. And after graduating, I also was able to move to New York while working for a big law firm in the immigration sector once again. A few things happened during my journey essentially that made me realize that I just wasn't as passionate about being an attorney as I initially was in undergrad. So this kind of made me have a change of heart in understanding where my interests lied at that moment versus where they lied when I was in college. I made a whole video on this, by the way, in my thought process, so I'll link it up here. But just to summarize it, instead of getting my law degree, I made a decision to move back down to Georgia after living in a few different states, New York and Texas to be exact, and pursuing my MBA with a concentration in marketing here in Atlanta. I started my program in August of 2022. Now that I'm finished and I'm able to reflect on my decision, the experience overall was 100% worth it. I think in these past 2.5 years, I've learned so much being in school than I would have being outside of school, especially within the business sector, just being able to properly take finance courses, economics, just courses that I never really got proper exposure to, especially being that my undergrad degree was in psychology. And then also being able to take those marketing courses, which has helped me immensely in my career, but also in my personal endeavors as I am on YouTube marketing myself to you guys as my subscribers, of course, primarily, but then also to brands and just trying to expand and grow my network in that regard as well. So the courses I took, some of my professors were amazing, especially as the program progressed. I will say that the beginning part of the program, I was just very unsure of what I was even doing there. I think there was a big learning curve for me. Given that I was out of college for 3 years, it took me a while to kind of adjust and figure out how to manage it all. Additionally, I was working for about half of my program full time. So I was juggling a lot, and work was a little bit more demanding in certain seasons, and sometimes school was more demanding for certain courses. So it was initially a lot to manage, but after that first year of getting the ropes of everything down and fully being able to immerse myself into my program, like the second year, now that I had like the proper skills to be a good student, I think that it made all the difference. I was also able to then like just show up as a better student, connect with my professors more, ask more questions, engage in conversations, go to events that were held before or after class, network with my classmates, putting myself out there more. Once I started to genuinely apply myself within my program, that's when the experience completely changed for me. And I think looking back, I almost wish that I could have done it a little bit sooner, like that first year when I was so in my head. I wish I would have spent more time just trying to figure out a solution to my problem versus trying to understand why I even put myself in that situation, if you know what I mean. So there was a lot of imposter syndrome initially where I was like, okay, I got into my program, I know I'm qualified, but a lot of this is so foreign to me. I remember when I was taking my financial literacy course, which is really just accounting, I remember I failed my first exam. I think I got like a 45 on it. I was so devastated because I thought I was going to be kicked out of my program. I thought that was gonna be it, because obviously when you're in school, you have to maintain a certain GPA. I believe for us, it was a 3.0 average, and that was going to obviously tank my GPA. So I was just so sure that that was gonna be it for me. And I remember getting that grade, I was bawling. I called my sister. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like literally I had a breakdown. I called a series of people, just not able to understand how this was my fate, because I'm a good student. I graduated with honors in undergrad, so apply myself. I work hard for the grades that I have. I'm African, so it's ingrained in us to be the best no matter where we go. So I just remember that experience and just really questioning why I was doing what I was doing. But I was reminded that professors want you to do well. So once I was able to gather myself, I remember remember in that moment I emailed my professor just asking her what I could do, how she could help me, what resources were out there. It almost brought us closer because she genuinely wanted me to do well also in the end. Fast forward, I ended up passing the class with a B+. So in my mind, it's like all is well that ends well, but the journey itself is not always easy. Anyways, that's kind of like a summarization of going into the program, my initial experience, and some of my initial hardships that I experienced. I will say that along the way though, I also started dealing with life stuff where I was laid off from my job at one point, and that was really devastating for me because I had kind of planned out my life with that job in mind, and obviously with going to school in mind. I knew that by the time that I graduated, I would have X amount maybe saved, and I'd be able to then properly transition into my career knowing that I had the proper leverage financially to do so. So that experience was really difficult to deal with because it happened unexpectedly, and I wasn't able to even take classes while being laid off because I hadn't registered early enough. So it was just a time where I had to really just sit and think and ponder. By the grace of God, I ended up getting another job still within the legal field before ultimately realizing that I wasn't going to have enough time to fully dedicate myself to a full-time position and being a student and trying to change careers into the marketing sector. Like, it was just not going to work for me. So I made the decision back in January of last year to quit my corporate job and essentially look for marketing positions and marketing positions only. Thankfully, I was okay financially. I didn't have to worry about that too much, but there was a little bit of fire under my butt because I had financial goals that I still had set for myself for the year. But I knew that if I made the decision, my financial goals are going to have to be put on pause. And they definitely were, because between January and June, I applied to multiple positions, and it wasn't until mid-June that I was able to secure an internship for a social media marketing position, which I had prayed for and I was so grateful to have. And that position itself has helped my career so much, and I was able to build a professional portfolio off that, and just the exposure and the mentors that I received throughout that. It's been such a blessing. And then fast forward, I was able to get another position within the marketing sector as well, this one more so helping with marketing collateral. It's all funny how towards the end of my program, God essentially knew that it wasn't wise for me to have a full-time position while still trying to be a student. No matter how many full-time positions I tried to get, they weren't working out for me, and I knew that I was qualified for them. The timing just wasn't in my favor. Employers, knowing that you're a student, they're not always eager to hire you because they know that your time and your energy will be placed elsewhere, and sometimes employers want to hire someone that they know that they can, you know, get a lot of usage out of, if that makes sense, right? So knowing that employers knew that, and then knowing that I myself had a lot of work to do, the last year being in school, 2024, was genuinely the most demanding year because I literally was a student spring semester, summer semester, fall semester. I had no breaks except for like the 2 weeks that I probably was allotted in between each semester. But honestly, I don't know how I would have kept up with a full-time job while being a student during that time. So I know that God was giving me exactly what I needed, but that's really hard for someone, especially like me, to comprehend in the moment. But once again, I thank God for it all, and I thank God that upon graduating, I'm still able to work some of these positions while I'm figuring out the proper full-time role that is for me. I feel like I did it in the proper way, where I was able to build connections, build my portfolio, take the time to do so, connect with various people, attend conferences, genuinely enjoy being a student before I am now having to be like a full-time adult. So all is well that ends well at the end of the day, and I always say that and I always preach on that, and I thank God for that because one of the best experiences in my MBA program was our case competition that we did at the end. Our school partnered with Coca-Cola, so we had to do a case study with them, and it was an amazing experience because it was essentially our ability to put together all the skills that we had learned throughout our business program, present a case to a global company, and have them critique us, give us their feedback. And we actually were fortunate enough to make it to the second round. We were 4th place out of 15 teams in our program, which to me is worth bragging about. It just means that I actually learned in my program, right, to a certain extent. So not having a full-time job, but being able to fully apply myself in situations like a case study, that was essentially my capstone assignment. Working with this amazing company alongside my professor and my teammates, of course, that was all literally a blessing, and it's something that I will forever cherish. I have a plaque, so it's just something that I can carry with pride, and I know that despite the fact that I had plans during my program that maybe didn't work out exactly the way that I wanted to, I know that the way that it worked out was the best way for me. And for that, I'll always be grateful, and I'll always look back and understand how fortunate I was to be in that position. A lot of people go to school and they don't have the ability to not work or maybe take part-time roles. They have to work full-time because they have a family to sustain, or their financial situation won't allow them to. Just thank God that, once again, summarizing all of that, those are some of the main hardships that I went through, but in retrospect, it definitely worked out for my good, and for that I'll always be grateful. But some of my other struggles, of course, while being a student was just making sure my mental health was in its best state possible. It doesn't require much explanation. Trying to juggle all of that as a student while still maintaining life, while still maintaining interpersonal relationships, while still keeping up with things that you enjoy like YouTube. And for me, it was working out. I loved working out, and I love working out still. It's just I didn't always have the time for it. Even friendships, like I'm big on friendships. I'm really big on interpersonal relationships, the people that I care about. But I know that I can be a distant friend, but even in my distance, it doesn't mean that I feel good about it. 9 times out of 10 feel very bad about it, but it was just very hard to just manage it all and just show up for every single thing and communicate and respond to texts and calls, and I just wasn't always showing up as the best version of myself to everybody around me, and that was really hard for me to deal with. So moving forward, now that I have the time, I am going to just be a better person in every single thing that I do. If I'm working out, I'm putting my all into it now. If I'm seeing my friends, if I'm catching up with them, if I get to hang out with them, I'm gonna experience all of me. I'm not holding back in any way. Working on YouTube, things that really, really matter to me, I'm going to do it with the best of my ability now that I have nothing holding me back. I don't want to get back into that negative space that I was in mentally. So now that I have the ability to show up as a better person, I am going to in every single way that I can. The way that I eventually allowed myself to stop beating myself up for not being able to show up for everything and do everything the best that I could while I was in school is just focusing on systems, just a routine, things that would inherently be placed into my schedule that would fuel success, right? That would fuel results. And things like this for me that really helped was just maintaining a schedule that I adhere to. Early morning workouts was the best way for me to get the workouts in, especially when I was working, because I would work out, get that off my list, I'd go to school. Oftentimes I'd have class right after, so then I'd be in class for 4 hours, and in the evening I would have to eat my meal prep and then go to bed and rest and repeat. So things like maintaining that schedule, things like ensuring that on the weekends when I had a little bit of time, I would meal prep, I would go to the grocery store, I would spend a little bit more time with my friends if I could, spend a little more time with my partner if I could, spend a little more time with my family if I could. Planning everything out. Despite the limited time that I have, I still had time to plan those hours of my day to maximize them. So systems, of course, over everything else. That's what I operate with even now that I'm out of school. Systems just fuel success, and I am a systems person. I'm type A. I succeed off system. I succeed off adhering to a schedule and checking things off my to-do list. So knowing that is something that I definitely plan to use in the future as I am creating my dream life for myself. So last one I want to touch on is what I look forward to now that grad school is over and how I plan on essentially glowing up my life. As I kind of touched on before, just showing up as the best version of myself in every single space that I walk in. I have an extensive list of New Year's resolutions and things I really want to accomplish this year, and primarily being able to use my education to start my business that I'm working on is one of my biggest goals for the year. And just, you know, post grad school, I also want to really maintain my connections that I made, my professional connections that I made while I was in school, and just continue to build my social capital as well, since I wasn't able to focus on that as much while I was in school. And then also continue to make good financial decisions as I'm building my future. One of my biggest goals was to purchase a home last year, and a few things have changed to the point that I'm not exactly sure if I want to purchase just yet, but still moving with the intention of setting these big goals and making financial decisions that reflect that will help me get closer to the dream version of myself. Additionally, I want to ensure that I'm always finding ways to learn outside of the classroom now that I'm not in it. We did a lot of reading on Harvard Business School case studies, which I always found so interesting. So any access I can get to pieces of reading like that, I'm going to continue to try to do so. I love TED Talks. I love listening to them. I love watching them in my downtime. downtime, I just love learning about random things, and I want to continue to do that. I want to engage in more meaningful conversation. I really just want to network with people who are in the same position as me, because we can both help each other in one way or another. So going to events in the city, doing professional networking, specifically in my field, are things that I look forward to immensely now that I'm finished with my grad program. And I know that that's going to be an incredible way for me to glow up in my personal and professional life. So that's really just all for my grad school experience. I genuinely enjoyed my experience overall, and I feel like I came out a changed person, and I'm forever grateful for what I got to learn in the past 2.5 years. And then for this series, I plan on just continuing to check in with you guys. I want to do vlogs. I want to do day in the life videos. I want to just bring you guys along on what I do day to day that is helping me transform my life outside of being a student. So I really hope that you guys stick around for that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I definitely have a playlist of all of my MBA grad school videos that gives a little bit more insight information if you're curious, but definitely check out the playlist, as I mentioned once again, in the description box if you're interested in any other videos regarding my school journey. And yeah, I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye.